The Journal of Jesse Smoke, Part 3, page 26. November 5, 1837. Saw several bearded and roughly clad white men on the road this morning. They were on the other side of our pasture fence, staring across a field towards our cabin. This worried me. Though we are not wealthy, we still are better off than some of those white men who are our neighbors, to us just over the state line to the south. There is the belief among some white men that many of the Cherokees now living here, some of them families forced to desert their homes in Georgia or Alabama, have hidden wealth. These white men, who are no more than banditti, believe that we have stores of gold that we have taken, against the laws of Georgia, from our lands. Made it a point to sit on the front stoop and clean my grandfather's musket in plain view of the white men who stared over the fence at me. They finally drifted away. Though we are in Tennessee and not Georgia, such men, who often are members of the Georgia militia, pay little attention to any boundaries. Seeing their hungry faces reminds me how far we have fallen and how far we might yet fall. I fear greatly for our dear nation. However, as I sat on the porch writing these words this evening, 3 members of our light horse, the Cherokee Mounted Police, come galloping by. It is likely that they were alerted to the presence of that dangerous band of white men. They are patrolling to see the safety of our homes and farms. Once they have the power to drive away the whites illegally settling on our lands. Now they only serve as watchmen. I did not recognize them, but one of them waved at me, and I waved back. It has lifted my heart for the moment. November 6, 1837. Today, as I survey our little 2-room cabin, our small acreage of land, and our few animals, I remember how things were for us 3 years ago. We had a larger farm, a modest plantation, with a small herd of cattle west of Newicatoa. Our father employed people who worked the land. We had no slaves. My parents felt that such practices were wrong, even though we Cherokees tend to be kinder to Africans than the white planters are. But father feared for us. He had received threats from the Georgians, who first tried to buy his land for a pittance and then threatened his life. So he moved us here to this smaller farm. Then he went back to get our team of horses and see about selling off our cattle to a Cherokee neighbor. A few days after my father went back to see our plantation, a soldier came to our door. Like many of the white men under General Wool's command, he was a Tennessee volunteer. Also, like most of Wool's men, he showed not only politeness to our people, but even respect and liking. Despite conflicting orders from President Jackson, Wool strove to be fair to white and Indian alike, while making matters ready for the immigration of our people. More than once he had jailed white men or punished them for offenses against the Cherokee, even though each such action resulted in angry communications from Old Hickory. The Tennessee soldier removed his hat and bent his head. Then, in a soft voice, he told my mother it grieved him to inform her that her husband has been killed. My mother listened with her chin raised and her eyes wide open. She did not cry while he was there, though she reached out to take my hand. The soldier related how my father had been murdered in broad daylight by a gang of white men who rode up to our plantation and shot him dead right next to the trellis of white rambling roses he had planted for my mother. I stood there feeling as if we were drowning in deep water. I could hear anger in the soldier's voice. I remember wondering why I did not feel angry. I only felt emptiness. The soldier told my mother that they were witnesses. There were witnesses. A white woman was being driven by in her rig. She and her driver had seen it all. Because of that, the men who did it were arrested. The courts would not only pay attention to an Indian's testimony, but a white woman's, and it is another thing. The soldier paused. My mother's deep silence touched him more than any tears. I could see the emotion filling his face and choking his voice. My mother held her hand out to him. "Thank you," she said. "We know that you are men of honor." Tears filled the man's eyes, and as he took my mother's hand, God forgive us all, ma'am." He turned, climbed back onto his horse, and rode away. All of his shoulders bowed, and a weight he would carry all of his life. When the last sound of the horse's hoofs on the red dirt road had faded away, my mother began to weep. The men who killed my father were never tried. The white woman who witnessed the killing was found dead in her house with her throat cut. The black slave who had been driving her that day vanished, along with her horse and buggy, never to be seen again. Today those same men live in the house that was once ours. November 8, 1837. Another of our hens is missing today. I fear that a fox has been raiding our hen coop. News from Washington. John Ross remains in Washington, pleading that our removal should, at the very least, be delayed another 2 years. With each delay, we hold on to the chance that we might yet remain on what is left of our lands. However, in Congress, the Georgians now warn that we Cherokee will soon go to war, as did the Seminoles. A strong military force must be sent to overpower us, for we have 4,000 warriors ready to take up the scalping knife. This is a bold-faced lie. Every Cherokee who can take up a rifle has sworn to John Ross that we will not resist by force of arms. Our fight shall be in the courts, not on the battlefield. We could resist and soak the earth of the South with blood, but we know that we would sacrifice our lives and the lives of our family to do this. We do not fear to die, but we have vowed to seek a better way in peace. November 9th, 1837. I received news today of a lighter sort. The ball team of our town has been challenged by the team of a town next to ours. Our elders think a game of ball is a good idea at this time. Stickball is not just a game, but is also a prayer for good health. I'm a member of the team of young men who will play. My friend, especially Bear in the water, Snake Killer, Crow Caller, and Otter tease me when I play ball. None of them can read or speak much English. They sometimes call me Mission Boy. Can a mission boy play stickball? Otter asked. My friends say that my studies have made my feet soft and my arms weak. Maybe they do this because they know it makes me play harder. Of all the boys on my team, I am almost the fastest runner, and I have never been afraid of getting hit with a stick. Remember that story of the bat? I said to them. Long ago, the birds and the animals played ball against each other. One little tiny mouse asked the bear to be on his team, but Bear just laughed at him because the little mouse was too small. So the mouse went to the side of the birds. They made wings for him out of the skin of an old drum. Thus, he became the bat. In the big ball game between the birds and the animals, Bat scored all the goals for the side of the birds. The animals lost because they left him out. It's true, Bear in the water said, that you are very tiny. Also, your eyes have grown weak from reading so many books. Maybe we should call you a bat instead of mission boy. Maybe. He didn't finish what he was saying because I grabbed him and we started to wrestle. My other friends jumped in. We rolled around together in the red dirt in the front yard, or in our yard, while the dogs barked and the chickens scattered in all directions. We stopped when my mother threw a pail of water over us. We were all laughing, my mother the hardest of all. I realized then how long it had been since I heard my mother's laughter. We will have a ball dance tonight. The fueler will get us ready. We will meet around the fire and go down the river. He will use the red and black beads to see what will happen. He will bring us good luck. Then we will sing and stomp and dance. We will be prepared for tomorrow's game. November 10th, 1837. Difficult to write. 2 fingers broken on my right hand during a ball game. A grand game. I scored 4 goals. I believe our team won, though we lost track of the final score. Very good game indeed. All who played were pleased, though much bloodied. We'll write again when fingers hurt less. November 20, 1837. News has arrived of the emigrant party that set out by the water for Indian Territory on March 3rd. 466 Cherokees were loaded onto 11 flatboats and were taken down the Tennessee River, led by General Nathaniel Smith. Their party included Major Ridge and Stan Watty, as well as members of the family tricked into leaving their homes by promising them expense money. Many of them used up their money before embarking by drinking and cheating cheating by white men who lured them into gambling as they waited at Ross's Landing to embark. At every turn in the river, every port, more whiskey was for sale. Whiskey boats even plied the river, ready to sell spirits to any Cherokee on board who yet had money. The flatboats loaded with drunken Cherokees floated down the Gunter's Landing in Alabama. There they were hitched to a steamboat, Knoxville, and towed to the heart of the Muscle Shoals. Then they were loaded into the rail cars, all of them wet and cold. Thence they were taken to Tuscumbia, Alabama, and crowded into 2 keelboats that went down to the Ohio and Mississippi, past Memphis to the Arkansas River. They arrived at last at Fort Coffee, Indian Territory, on March 28th. Despite their great discomfort, much sickness, and continual drunkenness, none perished or died. The man who related that tale to me is one of those Cherokees. He gave me his name as James Smith. He stopped to ask us only for a drink of water, but my mother and sisters insisted that he spend the night. It took him 4 months to make the long walk back here. Sometimes he was given shelter by sympathetic white families. Other times he hid in a hay pile or a copse of trees through the day to travel by night. James Smith had vowed to never drink again and never again be taken west by any means, whether on land or water. He ate a great deal of food at midday meal with us, praised my mother's cooking, and then set out again by early afternoon. He did not say where he was going. Hearing this sad story of the journey to Indian Territory makes me wonder and worry about the fate of the larger party that left by wagon from Calhoun, Tennessee 1 month ago. Among them are some of my former schoolmates and friends from mission school. Fingers are hurting greatly now. Will write more tomorrow. November 24, 1837. The Fuhler came by today to look at my broken fingers. He has visited almost every day. He seems eager to hear what I have written down. I must confess that his visits do my heart good. I never knew my own grandparents. As you know, my father's father died at Horseshoe Bend. His wife passed on soon after from a purulent fever. 2 years after that, an epidemic of influenza carried off both my mother's parents, so the Fuhler has been the only grandfather I have known, sharing with me such things as a grandfather might share with his favored grandchild. Today, as the morning was just breaking, and I sat about to mend a horse harness, the Fuhler appeared in the door of the barn. He held an ear of Cherokee corn in his hand. He placed it in my injured hand, telling me that I must hold on to it. Then he turned and motioned for me to follow. He led me down to the creek and bathed me in its cold waters. As I sat there half naked and shivering from both cold and excitement, he proceeded to tell me the story of Salu, the corn. It was a story of all Cherokees know well, but hearing it from his ancient voice gave it a new meaning. It was one of our most sacred tales, so sacred that in the old days no one could hear the story without first going through a special purification. First, man Kananati, the hunter and first woman, Sulu, whose name was also the name of maize, lived together. Sulu would go to their storehouse each day and produce corn from her body. One day, while Kanati was out hunting, their 2 sons looked in a storeroom. They saw Sulu making corn from her body and thought she was a witch. Sulu knew she had been seen. She knew that her sons felt that they must kill her because they believed she was a witch. So she told them to drag her body 7 times around the soft earth. Then corn would grow and always be there for people to harvest. But the boys only did so 2 times. So there are only 2 corn harvests each year. When the Fuhler is done with this tale, he simply rose and walked away. I waited for him for some time and finally decided that I should take his lead. I dressed and returned to work. The ear of corn he gave me is here on the table beside me as I write. It has been a very good day.